Today, we're diving into the incredible story of Hatshepsut. She was one of ancient Egypt's most powerful, most successful pharaohs, a woman who completely defied a world dominated by men and built a legacy that was meant to last forever. And yet, somehow, she's also one of its greatest mysteries. And, for 22 years, she really delivered. Her reign, which kicked off around 1479 BCE, was a genuine golden age. We're talking about a time of peace, incredible artistic innovation, and economic prosperity so widespread that records actually suggest no Egyptian went hungry. But here's the puzzle that has baffled Egyptologists for centuries. Despite all of that phenomenal success, someone, or maybe a group of people, later took chisels to stone and systematically tried to erase every single trace of her existence. So, to figure out why, we have to understand the world she was born into. Okay, so to solve this mystery, we have to go back in time. Back to her world, 18th dynasty Egypt, around 1500 BCE. Now, this was a society with a very specific, and I mean very rigid rules about power, gender, and who is allowed to be in charge. And you can see here just how clearly those roles were divided. In this patriarchal society, men held all the public power. They were the pharaohs, the generals, the high priests. A woman's role, even a royal one, was to be a wife and, this is the most important part, to produce a male heir. The whole system was designed to keep ultimate authority locked firmly in male hands. A woman simply could not rule alone. End of story. And this number, wow, this really puts it into perspective, right? In over 3,000 years of Egyptian history, only about 5 women ever managed to claim the title of pharaoh. So for Hatshepsut to do what she did, it was a massive, almost unthinkable break from tradition. So here's the crucial idea: legitimacy. A pharaoh's right to rule was all about their bloodline. And Hatshepsut, well, she had an ace up her sleeve. Her mother was a direct descendant of the dynasty's founder. This gave her something priceless: pure, divine, royal blood. It was a stronger claim to the throne, believe it or not, than even her own father's, or the half-brother she would end up marrying. Now, a series of events, part tragedy, part incredible opportunity, is about to catapult her from that traditional role of queen consort right into a position of real power. And trust me, she was ready to seize it. This timeline really shows her calculated journey. First, she marries her half-brother, Thutmose II, and her pure bloodline basically props up his weaker claim to the throne. But then he dies young, leaving just a little kid as his heir, and suddenly, Hatshepsut, the experienced and legitimate royal, is named regent, the real power behind the throne. But she was not about to stop there. And she was incredibly shrewd about it. She surrounded herself with ambitious, brilliant advisors who were completely devoted to her cause. What's even smarter is that many of her top officials were unmarried, a calculated move to make sure their loyalty and their time belonged to her and her alone. But, being a savvy regent wasn't going to be enough. To truly rule, she had to overcome the biggest obstacle of all: her gender. And to do that, she launched what has to be one of the most brilliant propaganda campaigns in ancient history. Her solution was just pure genius. If the rules of man wouldn't let her be king, well, she just appealed to a higher authority. She decided to completely rewrite her own birth story, connecting herself directly to the most powerful god in all of Egypt. She had this incredible story carved right into the walls of her temple for everyone to see. In it, the god Amun-Ra visits her mother disguised as her father. He then conceives the child, Hatshepsut, not of mortal flesh, but of divine essence. This just masterfully sidestepped the entire problem of earthly succession. Her claim wasn't just legitimate anymore. It was now divinely ordained. And this is the key. She didn't present this as some kind of argument or justification. No, she presented it as a fact, carved in stone for all time. She was essentially saying, look, this is who I am. I am the daughter of a god, and it is his will that I rule. It was just an incredible piece of political storytelling. So, after establishing her divine right to rule, she completed the transformation. She began portraying herself with all the traditional symbols of a male pharaoh: the royal kilt, the ceremonial false beard, all the masculine titles. She wasn't a queen acting like a king anymore. She simply was king. So what happened once she secured absolute power? Did this totally unprecedented move lead to chaos and disaster? Well, quite the opposite. Her reign is remembered today as one of ancient Egypt's brightest and most prosperous times. And just look at what she accomplished. Instead of war, she chose to build. She kicked off this massive construction boom, creating some of Egypt's most magnificent temples and obelisks. She focused on the economy, launching a legendary trade mission to the distant land of Punt that brought back immense wealth. Under her rule, Egypt was peaceful, it was prosperous, and it was creative. By any measure, she was an absolutely exceptional pharaoh. Which, of course, brings us right back to our central question. If she was so successful, why on earth did someone try to erase her? Now that we understand just how she got her power, we can finally figure out the motive behind the destruction. For a long time, the main theory was pretty simple: revenge. The idea was that her stepson, Thutmose III, the boy king she was regent for, grew up resentful, and once he finally had the throne to himself, he destroyed her memory out of pure spite. It's a really compelling, personal story, but the evidence doesn't quite line up. So, a few crucial points here. First, Thutmose III waited 2 decades after she died to start the erasure. That is not a crime of passion. Second, many of her statues weren't smashed in anger. They were carefully buried or walled up, almost like they were being respectfully hidden. The modern consensus is that this was a cold, calculated political act. He wasn't erasing a person he hated. He was erasing a precedent, the very idea that a woman could rule, that he simply could not allow it to stand. In the end, Hatshepsut's story is just one of incredible ambition and political genius. She operated within a system that was designed to keep her on the sidelines, but she took every opportunity, bent every rule, and literally rewrote her own destiny to become one of Egypt's greatest leaders. Her story was almost lost forever, only rediscovered by chance thousands of years later. And it leaves us with this provocative final thought. If a pharaoh this powerful could be nearly wiped from the record, how many other great rulers has history tried and maybe succeeded in erasing completely?